Hey there, everyone. This week on the podcast is another throwback episode where Chris and Jared discuss communicating your needs at your job. How part of it is the team member's responsibility to ask for what you need, but leaders have a role to play as well, as it's your job to create a space where team members know they can speak up and ask for what they want. Clearly communicating what you're looking for is the best way for everyone to move forward. It's not about hearing every idea or needing to say yes to everything, but rather creating the right space where everyone knows what's possible. They share a bunch of examples of how this showed up in their careers, and it's a really interesting listen looking back on it. All right, enjoy, and we'll see you next week.
You're in exploratory phase right now? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm in an exploratory phase. Well, I've been talking to a lot of different people, and the thing that seems to happen to people, especially in business or in leadership, isn't too different than the thing that we just described in terms of music and growing up, which is when you enter into these agreements or situations, you make a decision. Let's say, okay, cool. I'm going to open a business. I have a dream to do this thing or to create this entity that's going to have this effect on the world. Or,
at least that's how we look at it.
Maybe I'm being too kind. Like a lot of people are like, I need to make money. I'm really good at this thing, so I'm going to do that.
You were just speaking from a place of inspiration. I think a lot of people are like, I could do this and I can make money.
So what a lot of people that, I talk to these people who are like, okay, cool. Now I've created this thing. And this thing, instead of being a funnel for my creativity, it's actually a black hole for my creativity. So now I see the world in this weird binary code that's like ins and outs and labor models and schedules and money, which, if you have a business, money is important. It's not, you have to fuel the machine.
You got to fuel the machine.
It's not going to run itself. But people feeling constricted by the things that they've created instead of feeling excited by them. And I think that is like a stress that a lot of people feel. And I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Because let's say you have an idea. Okay, I'm Jared. I have an idea.
Sure do.
You can either do that idea, be like, how is this idea going to add to the thing that I have? Like, we have this thing called Cat and Cloud. How can I use this idea to make this thing better? Or you can say, like, I actually can't do that idea because it doesn't fit inside of this structure that is Cat and Cloud. So I'll just kind of leave that behind. And then you leave that behind, then you leave something else behind, then you leave something else behind. And then all of a sudden, you're just a guy who runs a business, but running that business has nothing to do with the things that you're really, really good at.
I can definitely see how it can get there. I feel like I've never been comfortable or able to believe what you just said in the meaning I think it's very normal. That whole scenario is hyper normal. I've kind of been the person who's like, how can whatever we want to do integrate into this business? And I kind of live my ideas, whether they land or happen, that's to be seen in the future. But I kind of always try to work in the context of like, this is an idea or a dream I have. How can I work it in so that it works because of the business and vice versa? So that's kind of like maybe part of the dream I have for our business is how you can make those things come to life because of the business. And that is totally not, I don't think that's normal at all. And I also don't think it's fully happened, but parts of it have.
It's not fully happened yet. I feel...
But we were working towards stuff.
I feel like at least for me, I think I'm entering a new phase in my life.
Nice, dude. Get some music. Mark the territory.
Whatever we've done before has been pretty good. Mm-hmm. And now we have this, I don't know, we have this thing that exists. And I kind of have this feeling that like, okay, whatever got us here isn't going to get us there. And it's time for 2.0.
Yeah. Because what we need to do is lean into our culture and then do whatever.
It's time to, we've got the foundation, we've got the stores, we've got the partner program, we've got people where they need to be.
Right.
We got all this thing that's built, and I don't see that one-to-one input of doing more work and getting more reward out of it. I think it's time to shake up the magic 8-ball and kind of explore some of these things that are on our mind. I don't know what that means.
Well, I mean,
but
it doesn't have to mean anything, but there is a belief we've always had, which is the ability for people to do more dynamic and unique things through work leads to more consistent engagement and more longevity and more happiness. What I mean by that is like, if you have to do the exact same thing every day, even if you love it, it becomes what it becomes, which is just a little too monotonous. We're too interested in creative. And so one of the things that we did, right, is offered a ton of paid vacation stipends so that people can break that monotony up. That was one simple thing. But on the other side is if we can bring different kinds of work into the umbrella of Cat and Cloud, then people can, which we haven't landed yet, but have the ability to take a working sabbatical and get paid to do something else within our company that's really awesome, maybe for a year, and then come back or stay, and that's me spitballing an idea that's always been a dream scenario, because I felt, and I know you felt the same way in other places where it's like, dude, I just want to do something else. I don't hate what I'm doing at all, but I need to do something else.
I wanted more creative freedom.
Sure.
I wanted more autonomy.
Yes.
Not autonomy, I guess. Creative freedom, creative input, and I wanted more.
There's some autonomy involved with that, but I hear you.
I felt like it's at some point I had paid into the bank of, cool, I got a really good track record. I feel like I'm doing what I can do to build trust.
Right.
And
let me get some swings.
I want to be able to capitalize on that a little bit.
Yep.
I want to be able to, I've done a bunch of things that work really well. So how about I get the freedom to try this, that, and the other. And when that is no longer possible, then I'm like, okay, cool, I have to go.
Sure.
And everybody has a different point at which that happens to them, and that's going to happen to people that work for us too. Like, because different people
win it all.
Yeah, different people are growing at different rates. Like,
Sure.
I can totally see a situation where we have people who are really, really good working for us, and we just don't have the next thing that they need.
Yeah,
which doesn't have anything to do with us. It's a
right?
puzzle, right?
Yeah.
Like, the two pieces need to fit together, and if they don't at any given time for any given reason, then it's time to find the puzzle piece that does fit. Wow, that was really hard for me to get out.
Or create the puzzle, the place for the puzzle piece to fit, which they're both arguably always on the table. It just comes down to ideas and execution after that, right? And what's the biggest priority, which is always hard.
Yeah, that's when you really have to weigh that trust and track record, because you can't create puzzle pieces for an entire organization necessarily. Like,
not unless you want to, and I'm literally just throwing it out there, but and I don't even think we're interested at all in this, but there is the other part of that, which is most of the time you don't explore all these things because you don't have the money and resources to go do it. So you could become the company that takes on like a significant amount of money to fund a few projects to allow them to go.
Oh, sure.
And, you know what I'm saying? So say we have like 4 people who are ready to expand our business to a pretty significant level, and we know they can do it, and it somehow aligns. I'm going way beyond where we are mentally at all. But at the same time, I'm thinking of places, right? Like Disneyland, they had to take out a shit ton of money to make all these. Arguably, each attraction is kind of like its own cafe or restaurant, you could say,
Sure.
right? So I'm like, okay, in order to do that, you have to take out a shit ton of money and then trust this group of people to go do all that stuff. And so for me, I'm like,
I'm more speaking about, that is true. I'm more speaking about having that, what is it? That emotional intelligence to realize what phase you're in and what you're capable of and what
like
you're ready to contribute.
Me, or
on the employee
person?
end. So
Okay.
we speak a lot about what's possible with employees, and I think people have so much potential. But
are they actually ready?
Are they actually ready, and have they actually earned it? Because I could see someone listening to what we say and being like, yeah, dude, I'm ready. I need this, that, and the other, because I've been kicking ass.
Yeah, we've seen that before.
When you actually really haven't.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of like, this is awesome. I can't believe how much you're telling me this is going to be so good. And then they're like, I don't like doing this at all. I'm like, well, then why do you do it?
Right. And it's just, there's a burden on you too.
Oh yeah. Gotta watch
to
yourself.
earn what you're able to get.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone's there yet, and that takes time.
Right. No, that is absolutely true. And that is, I think when you're semi-young, especially when you don't know what you want to do and you haven't walked through what it's like to actually have to see something through that's really, really hard, that can come back and bite you in the ass pretty hard. You'll be like, oh yeah, dude, I cannot wait to take on whatever. Say it's partner program. I can't wait to take on the partner program. And you get on, you're like, oh man, I thought I was just going to be like traveling and doing trainings and like connecting with everybody. And it's like, nah, dude, you're emailing and you're on the phone a lot and you're projecting and you're forecasting along with the green team and working with the roastery. And you're doing a lot of amazing connective back end work that actually makes it run. And then those are the fun bonus things that everybody gets to see because everybody posts that shit on Instagram. But the job isn't that. And you signed up for it thinking you're going to kill it. You actually hate doing most of the stuff that it requires to do a good job.
Yeah, and
That's
having that awareness to be, okay, I've earned something, or I feel like I've earned something. I want to do this, and being able to look at it and be like, what is the real value in this thing that I want to do? Do I want to do it just because I want to do it and I feel like I've earned it, or is it actually going to give back and contribute to something in a bigger way?
Yeah,
and that's a question that a lot of people have a hard time, it seems like, asking.
it's also kind of hard to answer. Like I'm thinking back, right? Like when I decided to go help start Verve and leave Chico, go to a place where I have no friends, it felt like it was the right thing to do, and I went with my gut. And then at the same time, I'm like, I guess there was a lot of belief that I could contribute to something, like you said, and to make something matter. At the same time, I didn't expect to get over here and work for basically 3 months without a day off. And at the same time, again, though, seeing that through, no matter how hard it was and tiring it was, so probably like it was a pretty amazing lesson. Be like, okay, is this what it takes? This is what it takes to make it sometimes. And then I just kind of had enough resilience and like, I don't know, naivete to like see it through and not overly judge what was imperfect.
Yeah,
For lack
that's
of a better
different
term.
situation than creating something on your own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There you're along for the ride on something in a very big way. Like you're undoubtedly contributing to it. I'm more thinking in the context of, let's say I work somewhere. Let's say I work here and I'm bringing a project to the table. It's like, hey, I want to do this project because I've been working here for 4 years and I've been kind of kicking ass. And then this is the thing I want to do. And being able to see, you know, what does this really have to do with anything else? Separating that I just want to do this vibe versus this is going to contribute to something that's important to us vibe.
I think what I learned, though, what I was getting at is that I didn't have to be in charge of it, so I had enough space to not feel stressed by it, but I got to see exactly what it took. So I got to learn a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Seeing like, okay, you know, I heard him talk. I heard all the conversations for the most part about what was right, what was wrong. We were all figuring it out together. Like, so that there was that part where I'm like, okay, these are all the details that are being talked about. So I was learning a lot in that context. That's kind of where I was going, where that learning was invaluable, but at the same time, I would not have been ready to start my own company. But I got to watch and learn, and it was really weird. And most people probably wouldn't have committed, I don't think, to working that much without rest. Like I had a lot of belief. I just don't think so. Like it was genuinely 3 months with like 1 day off. And that was a lot. Like you look back and you're like, damn, dude, then that's what we did.
Yeah.
But we only had to do it because of sort of our learning and our ability to have 3 of us helping and an amazing team. It was like a month before we had a full, actually maybe not even, maybe like 3 weeks before we took 1 day off. Maybe it was a month. We took 1 day. I remember that first day off. But all that to say,
That's different though.
you're totally right. Like you
Doing
have
it
to
yourself and expecting someone else to do it
exactly.
is different. Like we never had an employee that we expected to work 3 months straight with no days off.
No, I don't think we even got. I think maybe very seldomly there was a 6-day situation, if at all. Maybe not even that. I think we launched pretty hard. You're totally right. It's a different thing to have to go make it yourself.
And that's a more old school business model, right? Like we're building this thing. It's going to be awesome. If you want to be a part of it, this is what we do. We work for 3 months and fucking whatever it takes to make
Except
it right.
for tech. I think tech is exactly that still. Right?
Sure.
But
I guess, yeah, maybe it's not old school. Maybe it's just not.
Well, it's just changed.
It's just different.
I
Yeah.
think it is old school, maybe or maybe we're just trying to make a new school. But I think tech is like swim till you drown and then get out is what it feels like to me.
I don't know anything about it, but I'd imagine that if you're working in that circle, you're kind of envisioning the payout, which is I can tolerate this much pain and this much time for this many millions of dollars or whatever
That's what it sounds like.
whatever that ends up being. And if I fry myself for a few years, then that's fine because hopefully I'll be chill.
I mean, that is definitely how. There's 3 people that I won't use their names that come to mind who work in different departments and they started at significant tech companies. And every time they talk about it, like, yeah, I'm so glad I'm out of that. I worked my ass off to get out of that. And so that just means something to me. I don't ever go too deep. I can just imagine it's probably really long hours, nonstop stress. Like, I mean, you probably get berated a lot. Things have to be perfect, whatever. But there's just a better way. I think we're talking about a better way. And then there's a lot to learn. Man, you do really have to want, I guess what we're coming down to is you have to really want to see through what you want to do and believe in some capacity if you want to do it. And if somebody was going to try to do something newish or different within the umbrella of Cat and Cloud, they have to take it on with the right which we have a lot of great people with attitudes like that right now, don't we?
Here's a belief question.
Yeah.
When you work 3 months in a row, did you work 3 months in a row because you had to work 3 months in a row? Or did you work 3 months in a row because you believe so much? Do you think at any time, like during that period, you could have been like, hey, I really believe in what's going on, but I just need a day off, dude. I need like 2 days off. Like, is that a situation that happened?
No, I think it was both. I think I was conditioned to be like, whoever's your boss is your boss, and this is what you do.
Yeah.
I very much also believed, though, that I was going to contribute to making like one of the best, if not the best companies in the world. But I burned out. I had a migraine at the second ever CrossFit Games. You came to visit.
Yep, I remember.
You, Brent Fortune, Drew.
Scott.
Who?
Was Flex there?
Well, yeah, he was. Wait, yeah.
Was he working?
Yeah,
go.
I'll tell the whole thing. But
Okay, go.
Who was the other one? Was it just you 3?
Me and Drew.
Oh, Ryan Brown too.
Was Ryan there?
I think so, because I think we went to. I think later on in that day we went to like the Crow's Nest for
Sick,
a drink,
dude.
But for maybe not Ryan Brown, but for sure.
I for sure remember
Brent,
Drew. I remember
Drew,
being out at Aromas.
It might have just been Brent, you, Drew.
I don't think Ryan was there. He might have been. Sorry, Ryan, if you were there.
Well, either way, and by the way, Scott Flex, you're my dude now. Love you for real, but then could not stand you. You're a completely different person. Scott Flex is a baller now and a genuinely amazing person. But at the time, we brought him on to be in charge of stuff, wholesale, and I wasn't down. I had said it from the very beginning. I wasn't down. And then we landed this CrossFit, which at the time I had no idea what it was. CrossFit
because it
Games.
wasn't much. That's the thing.
It was the second year of the
this
CrossFit
was 2008
Games
or something.
Yeah, 2008,
Something
maybe
like that?
2009, but I think 2008, whatever, right around then. And I have a migraine, partially from stress of all those days of work. And anyway, we're out there at the thing. Nobody wants our coffee. It's 105 degrees, and we only have hot stuff.
Because it was that lever machine,
Mhm.
which was basically either only espresso or Americanos,
Yeah.
steamy things.
And nobody really knew who we were. The space looked cool. Like we had our spot set up. It looked nice. And then I just felt really inauthentic there because I had this young salesperson who was just like spouting off sales talk and kind of peacocking, which is what young people do. Doesn't do that anymore. Way more genuine and amazing. But like, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Nobody is coming to this thing, and I have this terrible migraine. I'm like, I worked like 3 months without a day off. And in that moment, I was like, I think I could be a firefighter and at least get days off. And there was that moment where I was like almost ready to quit coffee altogether.
Yeah, I remember when we were
done.
we were on the beach on the west side across from where Colby used to live.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if that was that same weekend. It might have been.
Probably was.
Or another one when I came up and you were like, dude, I don't know. I'm thinking of doing this firefighter thing. Like, it just, I don't know if it's worth it. Like, I can't hang.
No, I mean, I was ragged. I like totally was ragged, and it was just a hard time for sure. And it's just because that adds up and you're going after it and you're like, I don't know. Like, so it did get to that level when we started bringing people on, and it was still at that. I mean, I was still at that level when then we hired our first manager, and it wasn't me. And I was like, this person's a good person, but not the right fit for manager. And I was so emotionally drained. Like, dude, all of us would be so like we would cry over shit that wasn't sad. Like we were just done. Like the towels for compete. They're like, hey, you're gonna compete, and it was like, go to the one where you won. I was like, I have 3 days to practice. Okay, I'm gonna go compete, and like, man, everything was like so on the line, and I didn't do it right, and then I washed my towels, and I got yelled at because lint got on them in the dishwasher or in the washing machine, and I was getting yelled at, and I was just trying to compete. I was like, I for sure remember getting just ripped on for like not having my shit together, and I'm like, I'm 25 years old, like I don't know what's going on.
There's one version of that's your belief in this thing. There's one part of it that is a broken workplace culture, which is like you do what your boss tells you no matter what, because that's just how work works, and that's what our parents told us to do, and that's how you get
fired
ahead.
And you're gone,
right? Like, and like if I don't, I'm just replaceable. So I don't want to fucking do that because I don't really have a place to live. I'm already sleeping on a couch. Like that's
true.
I remember in 2010 Alita years, we did that first kind of competition show and tell that birthed the 1-in-1, where the 1-in-1 came out of, and it went super well, and it was so hot. Everyone was there, and then
Was hot.
Colby out of nowhere, like a few months later, was like, we're doing, or maybe just a month later,
I remember that.
know.
We're
He's
doing
like,
it again.
We're doing another one. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, we're doing it this weekend. We're going to do the thing. And I didn't have the tools to be able to communicate the way I can communicate now. So I'm just like, kind of partially that same thing where I was like, all right, I guess this is what we're going to do. But I was fucking bummed. Did the thing. It wasn't even that hot because nobody who was involved in it was like backing it, you know? And it was just like a high up call. It was just not the right
timing, yeah.
It wasn't the right time. Yeah.
It was just like, that worked super good. Let's do it again and bring a bunch of energy to the place. And it's like,
it's not the right feel.
You just can't do it again.
He didn't understand. Like, that was, some things are just a moment, and that was a moment. You can't just copy and paste the moment.
Yeah.
Like, the moment was there.
Exactly.
So I remember being next.
The 1-in-1 was created.
The 1-in-1 was created.
You can't create it
again. It's a fucking moment, bro.
We made a video already.
We were in the roastery next door from 41st, and I was throwing shit and like kicking shit and like borderline breaking stuff, like slamming dish tubs around, and he was in there, and he's all, that was one of the first times I remember I was like shooting super straight with my bosses in like in a negative way.
Yeah.
He's like, what's going on? I was like, dude, I'm fucking pissed. He's all, why? I was like, this fucking sucks. He's all, what do you mean? I'm like, nobody wants to do this. He's all, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, we did this like a month ago. It was awesome. Now we have to do it again. Nobody gave us any heads up. Nobody told us why. Nobody asked us if we wanted to do it. It's like our performances, and like nobody structured it well. Like it just feels lame. Like nobody's excited to do it, and it feels super forced, and everybody's fucking bummed, dude. And I'm pissed. Like, this isn't why I came here. This is stupid. And he was like, well, dude, like nobody told me.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
that's a good point.
I was like, okay, that's fair. Like, that's actually fair. Like, I could have communicated, like, when the thing got scheduled, like, come to him and be like, hey, dude, like, it just doesn't feel right. It's not the right time.
We didn't have that open communication.
I didn't feel that comfortable doing that right then. So I threw a temper tantrum instead, and that was how I expressed myself. But
that worked in those scenarios, though, for the most part. Because I think other people got things that they wanted and needed because they were able to be direct and straight up, just be like, this is what I need and this is what I do. And I never felt comfortable doing that there for probably until like the 6th year, you know? But that's kind of what happens when you start. It can happen unless the leadership leads you to feel that way. And that's where you open a company and you hopefully do a good job. Anyway, yeah, but being able to be direct, I think, was really important and worked well, even if you probably did it in a probably immature way at the time.
Oh, I mean, that definitely wasn't the right way to do it. I had so many blow-ups there because that's why I'm like asking, okay, cool. Like, is there a moment where you could have been like, hey, I'm just really kind of, burned out, but working, but that didn't really seem like it was on the table, or we didn't have the tools to understand how that went. Because I remember
so many good things. You getting some good memories, Papa?
I'm getting some so the first meeting, why was I even there?
I was What's his name from Marvel with the eye patch? I was just putting together the team, dude. I was assembling.
Oh yeah, dude.
Fury. I was trying to Nick Fury
Fury
here. I was like, get Chris, bring over some Ian, some John Withers, some Sarah P.
It was.
I'm
I
just-
somehow got involved in some training situation with wholesale. This is before I had an official role, but I ended up
I
in
mean,
a
it was
meeting.
probably because there was only one thing to do besides manage the cafe.
Yeah,
It was like, give this guy something.
yeah.
I mean,
and for
it's good, too.
For perspective, for everybody listening, this is kind of a trip because I met someone who watches our stuff and is like connected to our culture, and they came on a tour of Santa Cruz, and it's like, oh, cool, like that's awesome. Where else did you go get coffee? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, one of the Verves is, we were on the west side. One of the Verves is right around the corner over on Fair, and they're like, oh, they have cafes here, and I was like, yeah. I was like, they're from here. They're like, Verves from Santa Cruz?
Whoa!
So there's so many people
We're at
who would
that
just
level.
I mean, they have such a huge presence
I know,
in
they're
Los
big.
Angeles
LA is
that if
probably
you were
bigger
just getting
feeling.
into coffee, you'd probably assume that they're from LA or
Right, because LA is
know,
bigger.
I mean, they
Wow,
got
what
a place in
trip.
Tokyo, which just doesn't.
Right.
So anyway, for perspective, this is, from I started working there late 2009, and it was only one store
Yeah.
on 41st Avenue, and the
41st
roastery
Street.
was next door in this tiny little room, which is now an ice cream shop.
We roast next door.
So that was it. There
Yeah.
was nothing else going on. So it wasn't this big thing
No.
that we were in. It was really, really small. But we're trying to make a push for wholesale. It was right when Scott came on. And it was me, Colby, Ryan, and Flex. And Scott was in his zone that you just described,
Damn,
which
dude.
he was just
Smoking
on this thing.
cigs,
He's like,
ripping it.
we're going to take this person's account. We're going to take that person's account. We're going to take that person's account. And I just flew off the fucking handle. I was like, fuck this shit, dude. And everyone's like, what? I was like, this is not how you fucking do things. Like, this is, because I was just like,
That's why they brought him on too. Is how
Oh, I know.
baller he was at that.
I was like, this is a community. Like, I didn't know shit about sales, right? But I'm like, and I just came from Ritual,
Sure.
and Eileen is awesome to
Yeah.
me. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
awesome.
You
Still
had
one of
some
my favorite
legit
jobs
loyalty.
ever. And
Yeah.
their name came up in these accounts, and I'm like, dude, these are my friends. Like, I'm not here to fucking be in this meeting about stealing my
Yep.
friends' wholesale accounts. Like,
I remember those times.
fuck no. And
Yeah.
I like yelled through some shit, like walked out. Like, that was like the Chris Baca communication style back in the
You
day.
were pretty like that at the beginning.
I was like fucking,
yeah.
well, dude, I don't know. I was like,
Look at that one again.
I was kind of an angry kid. And in some ways, I'm still kind of like an angry
Comes and goes.
dude. Yeah, it comes in.
You hulk up a little.
I hulk up for sure.
Drop a little banner in
and
there.
just fucking just get mad. I mean, I was never taught how to communicate. So,
Yeah.
and I'm really particular. So when things don't go my way, I'm like prone to throw a temper tantrum or walk out of the room or just kick some shit. And I don't know. It's funny to have those moments and to put them in the context of like where everybody was. Like,
Right.
everybody in that room was just a stupid kid. Like, Colby and Ryan were barely older than us with barely more experience.
They were
less
probably
in-
younger than we are now.
Oh, for sure.
Not probably. They were.
They're
younger
not
than we
that
are
much
now.
older than us.
Yeah.
And probably less experience in some ways. Like,
Oh, sure.
we had more experience than them in the context of the coffee industry, even though they're the bosses. Like, Ryan had some experience. for
yeah,
sure.
not Ryan, but Colby for sure.
Colby was pretty green. And then in like the new, it was just weird. It's like, okay, there's like a bunch of dudes in their mid-20s like throwing
Trying
fits
to
and
act
trying
like
to
we
take
know what
over
we're
the
doing.
world, and we're like in charge of shit. I'm like, oh my god, dude, what a train wreck. It's fucking awesome. It's
Miracle
so
that
cool.
whole place worked, to be honest.
It's awesome. I mean,
Really good. Not a miracle, actually,
No,
at all. There was a
it's-
lot of really great intention and a lot of good inspiration and a lot of. It was
It makes
such
sense.
a coming of age sort of time for a lot of things, including the coffee industry. Like, it was all happening.
yeah, it's fucking hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
out of all the things that I think they're ridiculous at doing, one of the I mean, you're a big part of the reason why I went there. Like, I never would have worked there if you weren't there.
Sure.
That's like 100%. But on the other,
There was good
to sprinkle
inspiration.
for that, like, they started something and they had an intention.
Absolutely.
And they were hungry to do it, and I respected that. To where it's like, okay, you're not just here to play business owner or for funsies. You're like trying to do something. So
there was
that-
like a clear enough picture to
I get
grab,
that, yeah.
right? So there was like There was not ever a clear enough vision that you could tell it to anybody, but there was a clear enough picture for those of us who were there at the very beginning of like what we wanted to do. And it wasn't big enough for you and I at the end, but at the beginning, it seemed like it could be huge. And I totally believed and was able, I was like, I can see how we can make this happen. This is a no-brainer to me. And I mean, probably that's maybe where my biggest contribution was the ability to get other people to believe in it, but also even like maybe help Colby and Ryan at the time see that like it's going to be okay when they were like stressing out. I remember having to repull like 20 shots that are like the exact same because it didn't look right for Matt Williams, who is now like the head roaster for G and B Go Get 'Em. And we brought him on, and it was like this whole thing of like, I have to serve him this perfect shot. And I'm like, bro, you're making me just throw coffee out because you're just nervous. This is going to be, like there was a lot of that.
And at the time, he's literally just like a home espresso guy. He's a home barista who reads blogs.
Yeah, and I think he got to work a couple of guest shifts at Clatch in LA or like worked there for like a month. And so it was like, oh.
Dude, guest shifts. Okay, I remember when we came down and we were camping.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I was wearing my orange Atari shirt. And this is at the time, okay, like I fucking won a regional barista competition, placing in nationals. And me and Drew show up to work a guest shift at Verve before we worked there. And I remember Ryan being there, and he was hovering so hard because he's like, at Ritual, they steam their milk like a little colder than we do. Oh, yeah. It's like, make sure they steam the milk hot. And I was like steaming milk, and he would like touch it like before I poured it. He was so paranoid. It was awesome.
Well, I remember he was trying to get you all to pull, because you all were just going to pull the coffee how you thought it tasted good, and he was trying to like make, we
making us melt it. Yeah, it was pretty funny, which I totally dig. Like, I get that. Like, you work a guest shift somewhere, you take on their
You're
service style.
Take it on.
Like, there's no fucking way I would let anybody jump. And that's why we don't really do guest shifts, because it's like you earn your place behind that counter. But that was like a different world back then. It was like, but that was pretty fun. But that's part of the reason I was like, okay, these guys they actually give a shit. It's not just like random, you know?
There was a lot of intention.
As funny as that was, like I can totally respect having an idea for how you want to see shit go.
Right.
Like
there could have been a lot of positivity actually if some people from the world came and helped with like the confidence and the clarity of the message and the mission and the plan. It could have actually, I think, gone, which it doesn't really matter, but you like look at that and it's like, there was a lot of specific particulars that kind of got left because of the tension, I think, on the table. And I think there's so much cool learning there. And I'm just thinking back, like, I don't think I would have felt comfortable asking for time because I came from such a scarcity mindset anyway, that it was like the amount of money in tips and whatever, even though it didn't go the same distance in Santa Cruz as it did in Chico, was like more than I ever made. I was like, well, if I'm ever going to make anything of myself, this is the only way, because I don't have a college idea. I know that I can do this. Like, I have to do this or else I'm going to I mean, it's kind of what we said at the beginning of this thing. It's like, when we started our business, what are you going to do otherwise? And that's where I was at. Now I'm like, if this business failed, I honestly think that I could go crush it. And I don't know if I'd love it, which is a thing that I think about all the time. I'm like, I could probably go work for Disney and make something, be an Imagineer of some capacity. Or I could probably go work somewhere that I believed in and make something happen for them that was special. But I don't want to at all.
Yeah.
But that is definitely the difference. Is I had no confidence, nobody believing in me really. They would say you're the golden child, but they'd also, like, without realizing it, like crush me over and over again emotionally, and I had a lot of shame for my life. So it was like,
it's weird. I had the same.
I had to do it.
The scarcity mindset is like a real thing. I remember when I got the job at Ritual, Eileen gave me the job, and she's like, "When can you start?" And I was like, "I can start tomorrow."
Right. It's classic.
And
whenever you need,
she was
whatever
like,
you need.
She was like, "Do you need any more time?" And I didn't know her. Like, this is all new to me. This is like my dream job. And she's like, "Do you need it? Like, when are you going to be here?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to move my stuff on like whatever, it was like a Tuesday or something." And she's like, I was like, "I'll start on Wednesday." She's like, "You want to spend like take a week or whatever?" And my mind in that moment was like, if I say yes, that I'm going to take a week, that could mean that I might not get the job, or it could mean that it seems like I'm not as excited to have the job as someone else could be. And then I'm going to be a bad employee. And then yeah, I'm going to start on Wednesday for sure. And that was the fucking worst because I went home.
Right.
Jenny and I were like splitting up at the time. So it was like I went home, I packed up all my shit in my red 240 SX. I had a bike in there that was my dad's that I hadn't rode for like forever.
Right.
And I drove to San Francisco to sleep on my friend Tim's couch that night. I got all my shit settled in and unpacked at maybe fucking 1 a.m. And then I had to ride this super heavy, gnarly ass janky bike to open with Tooker at like 5:30. And I was fucking just roasted. Roasted. I showed up and I was just like completely excited to be there and also super fried. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, first things first, like you set up the pastry case. So this is more pastries than I've ever seen in my life because they're busy as fuck and I'm from Modesto. So I'm like putting out the pastries and I'm just like so focused on doing it perfect and I'm so tired and I'm just not saying anything. And like 10 minutes go by and he looks over at me. He's like, so it's pretty cool to talk to you. I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. I was like, I feel like such an imposter here right now. Like I feel like such a loser. Like it's
good to be here.
I'm so tired. I can't even believe I got this job. Like I'm just trying to not get fired at this
falling
point.
apart
Like,
and coming together. I think maybe.
like,
I hope.
I'm getting a divorce and my life sucks and this is so stupid. And like, thank you for this opportunity. And it wasn't until I saw so many other people come through and started being comfortable. It's like, oh, I totally could have just been like, yeah, I'm going to take a couple weeks and get used to the city or whatever.
Right.
And it wouldn't have made me seem like a lazy, like uninterested piece of shit employee.
People wouldn't have thought of you how you thought people thought of you.
But I was just in that same mindset to where it's like, dude, if you don't do this, you're just a sack of shit.
Hey everyone, that's the podcast for the week. Thanks so much for listening. If you heard something that inspired you, let us know or tell a friend. These are the types of connections that are the most important to us and that we seek to create every day. If there's something you heard and you want to know more about, send us an email to podcast@catandcloud.com or head to our website, catandcloud.com/podcast, and let us know. While you're on our site, check out everything we have to offer. Dive deep into one of our single origin coffees or pick up a little treat for yourself. We have something for everyone, so check it out. Also, find us in the usual places, YouTube, Instagram. We're always there sharing amazing things. All right, that's it. Thanks everyone for being awesome. We'll be back next week.